Welcome, everyone, to the Dolphins Make Me Cry podcast, week 2 of the 2025 season. And wow, that might be all I have to say is wow. What an absolute disgrace, abysmal performance, embarrassment, just complete all-around joke. But I know I come across as very negative on this podcast, and it's very hard not to when your team hasn't won a playoff game in 25 years. But I want to actually start on the one positive, and that is we got black jerseys and a black helmet for the rivalries game against the Jets. And I like black jerseys, and I'm excited about it. Other than that, everything around this team is a complete disastrous shit show. The Dolphins lose week 1, 33-8, and literally, I'm usually pretty decent on predictions. I completely flubbed that one. I should have went with my gut instead of going with what I thought was a little bit of logic, and that was that Tua was actually going to come out and elevate himself and elevate the team and basically play better than Daniel Jones, of all people, who pretty much did not punt or give the ball away and scored on 7 drives, which is like an NFL record that's never happened. Absolutely disgusting. And I was there, Lucas Oil Stadium, great stadium, good people, good downtown, good food, great vibe. I'm now 0-2 going there the last 2 years. But it's hard to even start where to begin with what that game was. And if there was a bright spot, it was Devon Achane, my man right here, 28, having 55 yards on 7 carries, about it's 7.9 average. That, I guess, would be your positive if we're looking for one. Other than that, this team did 0. And what makes this even worse, when you look at, I've been to well over 100-something games. I've watched this team, since the early 90s when I'm 7 years old. That might have been, it probably is, the worst loss, and I say it in this context. Now, again, 2019, they lost 59-10 in week 1, and then, precluded to be losing 45-0 the following week. But the difference is that team purposefully was losing to the point where they were cutting guys week 1 just to get baseline practice squad players to start a game to basically lose to tank for Tua, ironically enough, in all of this. And that team had no talent. For you to go out and lose against, now again, we don't know what the Colts are going to be. Every year there's that sleeper team. They certainly had a game plan to win the game. The tight end, who I knew was going to kill us, Warren, who we could have drafted, which is a whole nother story for a whole nother day, just wide open in the flat the entire game. No pass rush whatsoever. You got Phillips coming back from the injury. You got Chubb coming back from the injury. In fairness to them, they were both out, Chubb practically a year and a half, and Phillips basically all last year. He played the first, 3 games it was. Just nothing from them. Your linebackers, who I think are pretty decent, just not being able to cover the flat. The cornerback issue that I feel like kind of was starting to get masked a little bit in the fact that I think people were looking more at the O-line and the issues there. Just completely just blown apart. Probably your best guy, who, again, was a rookie free agent last year in Storm Duck. He's hurt. Believe he's going to be out for 4 weeks, which is a huge blow. I mean, you're throwing bodies out in the secondary. And I mean, look, I think Anthony Weaver's a good defensive coordinator. I talked about it last week, and I think he's going to, probably mask some problems. But at the end of the day, there are parts of the game where you have to cover one-on-one and make plays to get teams off of the field. And if you can't blitz your way out of it all day long, particularly when you got, like we said, the pass rushers that are coming back from injuries, and then you have a lot of rookies playing inside, Kenneth Grant, Biggers we talked about, Jalen Phillips. You got a lot of rotation. Everybody thinks, the front seven is going to be great, and I said it too. And I think in time it probably will be pretty good. But, I mean, you can't, pass rush your way to masking a bad secondary. Sorry. Minkah Fitzpatrick can only do so much. He's also a little older now. He's not the same player, and he's certainly going to get exposed when he's trying to cover deficiencies of a poor corner unit. And then the Miami Dolphins have not been able to cover tight ends for as long as I can remember, with maybe the exception of a few years with linebackers. But the interesting thing, and we're going to talk about the future a little bit here, about what I think will happen. I've already predicted McDaniel. There is zero shot in hell Mike McDaniel makes it out of the season. Zero. Now, that being said, much like my prediction last week, I do not want that to happen because that opens up a completely other can of worms. The only maybe other positive we can actually say about that game is that it was 1 loss in week 1, and it didn't count for 7 losses because the way the performance was, you could have counted it and should have counted it for 7 losses. So if you're going to look at a silver lining, you say, we lost week 1. Now, what did that prompt them to do this week? They had a players-only meeting after week 1, which is kind of laughable considering you just got out of training camp, mini camp. You were on the road for 2 weeks in preseason games in Detroit and Chicago. So you mean to tell me that you didn't know the issues and problems and deficiencies you had in an entire camp and mini camp, and now week 1, because you got you, that now you need a players-only meeting? I mean, God bless you. And then let's get to Tua, because the guy, he's a lightning rod. You got the Tua lovers, you got the Tua haters. I'm a in the middle guy. Like, Tua's got ability. Like, we saw 2023. His biggest disability is his durability because he's multiple concussions, hip injury I talked about. And I actually think when you break down a lot of his performance last week and his lack of mobility, which he's not crazy mobile to begin with, I think that hip injury that has completely went under the rug, and I said it last week, I think that is a huge issue with what his performance is and isn't, because he was not mobile and moving in the pocket. And then to add insult to injury, you have Xavier Howard, who was a all-world corner that we had, probably go up in the Dolphin honor roll, probably was the best corner, if not top 2, 3 of all time that we've ever had. He didn't play an entire year. The Colts signed him like 3 weeks ago. He's starting, and then what does he say after the game? That we knew if we took away Tua's first read, he would panic. Now, is that the history of Tua? No, it's not. He makes his progressions, but in fairness, because of the O-line issues that he's traditionally had outside of early 2023, it's been 1-2 ball out. So he's not getting necessarily a lot to his second and third reads, but from a process perspective, he is very good to get to the second and third read. And when I say very good, I mean it in the sense that when he does not have a lot of time, he can do it. The deficiencies he has is hitting the sidelines, and there's passes that he just cannot make, which makes the field smaller for him, which keeps it in the middle, which defenses are now totally privy to. They're taking it away, the too high safety. Excuse me. And then he had obviously the deep ball, which he has the arm for the deep ball. But the mobility that I saw, or lack thereof, I thought he did not throw the ball, very flat-footed, very just not decisive. And then bang, you hold the Colts in the first drive to 3, which was a miracle in itself. A couple of good plays they made. Then Tua comes out, running play, bang reception, bang interception. And it's just like, it was just all downhill from there. Had the fumble, had the other interception, and then you want to just throw complete insult to injury. In a team that, like, you knew the depth wasn't there, and the minute the depth foundation was cracked, this team was going to crumble. James Daniels, love him to death, seems like a good dude. Came back from an Achilles, you signed him. He's literally your number 1 free agent signed at guard on Tua's blind side. And what happens? He gets hurt in practice last week. and hurts his ankle, plays through it, starts, and then bang, play 3 or 4. He hurts his arm. Luckily, the only caveat of all of this, and from a positive perspective, he's not out for the year. He's out for 4 games. But your number one blindside guard to fix your O-line problems is now out going into this Patriots game week 2. And Austin Jackson, who got hurt early on in camp, he is now out. He is not 4 weeks, but I mean, let's face facts. I mean, if he's out Sunday, he's probably out for the Bills game, which don't even want to talk about that, but we'll get even there too. So now you got both guys on Tua's blind side are out starting this game. Huge problem. You got Larry Borum. Again, have no clue why they signed this guy when he was terrible on Chicago last year. And Keon Smith protecting Tua's blind side. So if you thought the 2 seconds was short before, you're probably at 1.5 now, my friend. So you better get the damn ball out, because last week you got blindsided on a corner blitz that nobody picked up. And I mean, you could just go on and on and on and on. And it's interesting because I picked them, obviously, and I thought they would do enough. And they ended up doing nothing. Now, as I started thinking about it, as we got closer to the game, and I was talking to some people, some of the writers, I was talking to a couple of friends of mine, it started to click in my head. And I just said to myself, and I kicked myself with that pick, saying, coaching hasn't changed. The leopard hasn't changed the spots. And then as the game drew closer, I was like, I don't know. I think I'm going to see the same shit coaching. And ding, 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 ding. What did we see? The same shit coaching. And I don't want to pile on, because they have been the laughing stock of the media this past week. Everybody's weighing in. Obviously, everybody wants to talk about negative stuff as it pertains to sports, and that is what it is. You know, they're just ranked worse. They got blown out. The only team that got blown out. Nothing was close. McDaniel's a nerd, which a lot of this stuff is a little bit, some of these shows, you know, these guys just pile on crap that doesn't matter. Whatever. If he's a nerd, if he likes designer shoes, like if his pants are weird, whatever. It hurts because it's perception, right? But the issue is the in-game coaching, the adjustments, the game plan is the same old crap. And we expect different results. And look, in fairness, we've said it. In year 1, he was McGenius. Now he's McIdiot. That happens in the league. It's the way it works. You win, you're a genius. You lose, you're not. The roster was a million times higher end than it is right now. You got the secondary problems, so many rookies starting that are going to have growing pains. You got, injuries at running back, corner, wide out. And again, everybody deals with injuries. But the in-game management, and I'm just going to go to this, right? If we can just surmise it in one thing, okay? You're down, I think it was 30-0 or 33-0. And you have your lone sustained drive. And you have too many men on the field on 3rd and goal. Too many men on the field, which then causes you a 5-yard penalty. You go for it on 4th and goal. You throw a swing pass behind the line of scrimmage that if you didn't have this guy right here, Devon Achane, most guys are getting tackled behind the line. He wills himself for a touchdown because he's a good player. Bang. 33-6, whatever the hell it was. And then on the 2-point conversion, they had confusion and needed to waste the timeout. Like, what are we doing? I don't understand. And it's game after game after game. Now, again, are you going to be perfect? No. But guess what? If I looked at Steichen, the coach of the Colts, like, he didn't have that shit. You know what he had? He had a game plan for Daniel Jones, the guy that was dead and buried with the Giants, that they paid, who they didn't want to pay, and then they cut him in the middle of the year. And then he wins the job from Anthony Richardson, a guy that they drafted like 4th as a top prospect. And he went into the game and you could just see it. He said, all right, I'm going to utilize Daniel Jones' strengths. We're going to look at the Dolphins' weaknesses, which is can't cover a tight end. We still don't believe that they can stop the run, even though they were pretty good at it last year. But we're going to believe that Jonathan Taylor, who's a very good back, is going to be able to neutralize any run game stuffing and pass rush or anything that the Dolphins are going to have. And we're going to use that tight end, and then we're going to pick our spots on the receivers. We're not going to put Jones in a position to lose the game and make mistakes. And on top of it, he's a little mobile and he's a big dude. We're going to run him a little bit. And on top of it, what even makes it so much worse than that from an out-coaching perspective, and again, we'll go after Weaver too because he coached the defense. On top of it all, every 4th down, I don't know how many they went for. It seemed like every draw, anytime the Dolphins would get them to 4th down, the Colts were like, whatever. 4th and 1, 4th and 2, 4th and 6. Let's go for it. Whether we have a lead, not a lead. Now, obviously, they built the lead. They were like, they can't stop us. They can't stop us. They're not physical. They don't have the right personnel. They don't have the right game plan. And I got a tight end who's wide open in the flat. I got a running back who he didn't go off, but guess what? When he needed to get 4 yards a carry, 5 yards a carry, 3 yards, 4 yards, 6 yards, he got him. When Daniel Jones needed to hit the wide open tight end, he did all day long. Tight end in the flat, wide open, all day, every day. And that guy out-coached McDaniel like Vince Lombardi would out-coach my high school coach. That's what it was. And that, my friends, is why he will be fired. Period. End of the story. It's only a matter of time. And I don't want that. I don't wish it into existence. I'm a season ticket holder. I sell tickets. I want them to be amazing. But sometimes, and it's getting there, and it's sad it's getting there in week 2, sometimes you got to take 2 steps backwards to take 3 steps forwards. And the sad part of it is you actually did that in 2019. And what did you give us? The ceiling was you having a 3-game lead with 5 to go. And I feel like I say that on every podcast because I'm always going to go back to it. And you blew the division to the Bills with 3-game lead, with 5 games to go, with a game at home on a Sunday night that you lost because of shitty special teams. That is why he will be fired. It's only a matter of time. Is it week 3? Is it week 4? Is it week 6? Is it week 8? I know this. It sure as shit ain't going to be in February. Sign up October or November, my friends, because the coaching is absolutely atrocious. And we didn't even talk about what we did last week, the offseason of dysfunction. That's that's on another wavelength over here. The in-game coaching's over here. And then it becomes, what are we doing? And again, I'm not Mr. Fire coaches. I think there's a lot of repercussions to that. A lot. You're talking then next year, you're rebuilding. Now, look, I said it last week. They've soft rebuilt this year because they know they know this dude ain't going to get him out of this funk. They just know it. They signed him last year, which made 0 sense. He's probably going to get paid. Don't cry for him. And again, it's not a personal attack. I think the guy's probably a great dude. I'll go have beer with him, but I can't have him coach my football team into the ground anymore. Now, again, look, the talent issues that you have at this point, where we just said it, your O-line, who's starting, the talent issues are one thing. The coaching issues are another. Like, now I get it, the run game, right? Clearly, you're not going to be running the ball when you're down 17 and 5 minutes in the game. But did you come out with that thought process? Yeah. And again, the funny thing is, this isn't even like the O-line didn't play great. Nobody did. But obviously it was on Tua. 0 pass there. I said it last week too. He did not practice with Tyreek. Tyreek's a whole nother issue. And then not that I want to get into domestic violence, because I mean, God forbid we talk about football on a football podcast, but in domestic violence, now his ex-wife is coming out and, of course, timing of these things is everything. What happens? Tuesday, TMZ drops, Tyreek Hill had 8 instances of domestic violence against his wife. So now he's got to answer that. Then on top of it, that then just leads into the team, who, of course, is going to shop him at some point, particularly if they're bad, and knowing they're not paying him $53 million next year. That just drops his trade value, and it keeps him here for now, which, again, is fine. Like, we clearly want him here if he can play, but if he could just stop hitting women and making children, it'd be amazing. Like, could you just play some football that you're getting paid millions upon millions upon millions of dollars to do and shut your mouth and actually get back to being the guy that you are? Now, again, do I think he probably will because he has that talent? He probably will. But, I mean, you want to talk about a dog pile. A dog pile of dysfunction, that is the Miami Dolphins. And it's very, what happens in sports is when you get buried, it's very hard to dig out. Now, and we're not talking you got buried. Like, the interesting thing is, like, this is so magnified for week 1, not because it's week 1, because it's last year. Actually, let's go back. It's you losing the Titans game and blowing the lead 2 years ago. The Bills game, which I'll never get over. Getting killed in the playoff game in the cold that you should have been hosting. All of last year, concussions, latenesses, culture, offseason, Ramsey, Hill, domestic violence, discipline. Like, they could have taken a backhoe and dropped issues, and it would have been less than what they have right now. Now, the real question. Week 2. A lot of games to go. Whole year. 16. How do you fix it? Is it fixable? The answer is no. And where do you go from here? So that's what we're going to talk about now that I got all that crap off my chest. So, week 2, home against the Pats, home opener. And you know what just sucks? Like, for me as a big fan and my friends and whatever, it's like, this is a home opener, man. Like, and maybe we need to just make it game 1 so we can at least have positivity, and not have to walk into crap like we are now. It's like, am I excited for this? This funeral that I'm probably going to go watch tomorrow? I mean, I guess I'll get there. It's hard to get there. That being said, this is a must-win game of all must-win games because you have Buffalo in Buffalo on Thursday. I mean, good God. Let me give you the spoiler. I'm picking the Bills. I don't care if the Dolphins win by 40 tomorrow, and I don't care if the Bills lose by 40 and Josh Allen's hurt. I'm still picking the Bills to beat the Dolphins by north of 15. Okay? Not even in their stratosphere. And it pains me to say that when you were getting close to them. So that being said, you're playing a Patriot team that right off the bat, the number one thing I'm going to look at and talk about is Mike Vrabel, who I would have taken as a coach in a minute, has already outcoached Mike McDaniel. Tonight with the game plan and whatever they're coming up with, he's already outcoached him. Okay? So just get ready for that. Now, Patriots lost last week to the Raiders. Look, they got a completely new team. They rebuilt. They went through all their stuff. They overspent the free agency. They've drafted Drake May, new quarterback. And then their number 1 corner's out tomorrow. So that's a little feather in your cap, maybe. But you're going to get outcoached. Now, will you get out you probably get out physical too, because that's just how we roll. Because we don't actually we play football, but we don't understand you can actually hit people. You're allowed. So you got that aspect: coaching, physicality. Now talent. Do I think we have more talent? Yeah, we probably do. Does that mean a lot? Probably by the end of the game, yes. And I'm gonna kind of lean on that. Now, I'm a little torn here, but I just kind of know the way this story goes. When they get a little desperate, traditionally, you're going to get some slugfest, slop fest. You're going to make the same dumbass mistakes, but you're going to get something big. You're going to get Tyreek over the top. You're going to get some big run from A-Chain. You'll probably get a pick six from somebody, fumble, whatever. You'll probably get some of that splash in the midst of just like running in the mud. And that's probably what it's going to feel like. That's why your under is so low. Vegas knows their stuff. And you'll probably walk away with a win. Better get a win. But it ain't going to mean a whole heap of beans. It's going to make you feel a little good because you won your home opener. It's going to make you feel, we go, all right, well, the sky wasn't completely falling. And now we go to Buffalo to get our doors completely blown off in 4 days. But again, I can beat the dead horse all I want. If you mean to tell me that you're going to go, you went into week one and that's the performance. I'm just talking from a preparation perspective. Like that's what you came up with. Then obviously execution and talent was another thing, but you didn't lose to the Eagles. Like you lost to the Colts. Now again, they could be the next wild card team. And God knows a team like the Colts, the division they play, it's very, it's wishy-washy, whatever. You know, Titans, Texans, whatever. It's winnable. It's usually always winnable. They could be the darling of the year. And again, the only caveat here is it's week one, but I'm sorry. Game plan plus coaching plus weak roster plus paper-thin depth. Recipe for disaster. And then the whole, Hill was hurt most of camp. He doesn't have the timing with Tua. Oh, and I didn't even mention this one yet, which is, let's just go back to the dog pile. Darren Waller. Now, again, you took a flyer on this dude. You did trade for him, though. A pick. He's out again. Then you're starting to wonder, why the hell didn't you just put him on the 4-game IR? Because now all you're doing is he practices or he doesn't practice. He's eligible to practice. And then he's got this hip injury that you traded for a guy with a hip injury. And now you're going to basically play this game of like making roster moves and going into these games with two tight ends, Connor and Julian Hill. Of which, Tanner Connor, what do you have? 2 catches last week. Hill's a good blocker. He's there for his blocking. And again, I do think the tight end in this offense at this point, if he's not playing, and you might as well just, if he can't play, they alluded to it this week, which is even more of a joke, of cutting him. He's going to be the early Odell Beckham of 2025. If you sit, like, what are you thinking? I don't understand. And let's go back to the Tyler Warren thing. Now, Tyler Warren was drafted right behind Kenneth Grant by us. And again, I'm not mad. D-line, I scream D-line, O-line, I am not mad. However, the only thing I'm going to say is this. You had Jonnu Smith when you were in the draft. It's hard to believe that anybody would think that they didn't know that he wanted to be paid. Maybe they didn't because they're dumb, but who knows? And you could have gotten Tyler Warren, who he looks like he's going to be a very good tight end. Again, it's one game. Maybe he's a generational tight end. Who knows? But you passed on him to get Kenneth Grant. And again, you filled the need. And again, a D lineman is not going to have the stats of a tight end. It's not going to be. But you passed on him, and then he came back and he just killed you. And if I had $1 for every time that the Dolphins have done that in my life, of passing on this guy for that guy and that guy becoming an all-pro, a Hall of Famer. I mean, the list goes on and on and on and on and on. You took Jalen Waddle over Penny Sewell. I mean, you can go back, Ginn, Brady Quinn. Clearly that did work out the way it was supposed to, but there is a laundry list of Tua. How's the Justin Herbert-Tua debate looking today? When Justin Herbert basically did what I thought Tua was going to do last week, and he willed his team to a win against a Super Bowl, the team that was in the Super Bowl last year. But again, it's like day late, dollar short, and I'm sorry, like this regime, the buzzards are circling, my friends. We got people tomorrow that are paying money to have a Fire, Greer, and McDaniel banner flown over the stadium. That's where we are, people. That's where we are. It's crazy. And in fairness to them, they gotta block out the noise and they gotta go to work. And they gotta actually have the right game plan, play to their talent. And I mean, for the love of God, you got Waddle and Hill making north of $50 million combined, maybe 60, whatever the number is. Waddle, the most overpaid wideout in the history of the NFL. And they give you zero. Now, again, we're putting it on Tua last week. Like, come on. Give me a break. Like, it is just laughable, the production that they get out of these two guys. Laughable. And what does it all come back to? I'm going to say it until I'm blue in the face. It comes back to the lack of a run game, the lack of, look, now you got the offensive line. And in fairness to McDaniel, like I said last week, when you're down, you clearly not going to be running the ball all day long. You're going to have it in there, but you sprinkle it in. But, I mean, it's not effective, and then you're going to look at the personnel, situation with it, and it's one thing after the other, the domino effect of the Miami Dolphins. That's what I'm going to say. And now it's just the over-under on when he's getting fired, because there is zero chance, I said it before, zero chance. If he makes it out of week 4, if they lose tomorrow, like, not that we even want to Nostradamus this, but they lose tomorrow and they lose in Buffalo, he might not be flying back. I would venture to guess they'd let him go to the Monday night game. Maybe. And then if you're 0-4, peace. Anthony Weaver, come on down. Because this is laughable. All right. But again, black jerseys. Positive. Let's be positive here. Okay. That being said, Steve Gio's Week 2 Miami Dolphin pick in the league where they play for pay. Dolphins Patriots season opener, Hard Rock Stadium. Going to be a steamy day and probably some rain in the forecast, which frankly I hope we don't have, because what we need to hope for in this game is what I do think could be an X factor, as it usually is in September. That is the heat and the sun. However, I do think you're going to probably get some of that overcast, so that might be a little bit overblown. My prediction, I do think, don't know how, don't know why, I guess I'm just going to be an idiot. I do think the Miami Dolphins, like I said earlier, are going to come out. They're going to make some plays. They're going to get some mistakes. You will see a slop fest. You will see Mike McDaniel make the same dumb decisions. You will see him get out coached by Mike Vrabel. But they will probably just do enough, make a couple of big plays with some of the talented guys that they have, and that little bit of talent that they have more than the Patriots. You're going to be sweating it out in the heat. Hopefully they're sweating it out, like I said. But I predict the Dolphins, who are a 1.5. It depends where you look. I'm going off a 1.5. Actually, no, I'm sorry, 2.5. 2.5 point favorite at this point at home. I think the Dolphins, and the over-under is 43. I think you're going to get a 2017 Dolphin win against the Patriots. So take the under for sure, because I think you're going to have a lot of boring football, unfortunately. I think the Dolphins will survive to win another day. You'll still have more questions than you'll have answers, and then bang, you won't even be able to enjoy it because you'll be in Buffalo before you can close your eyes for Thursday Night Football, where that should just be a complete and utter disaster. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let's end this positive. Let's have a good home opener. We've had some good ones. We've had some bad ones over the years. Let's come out and actually just somehow calm the noise and actually play some good, meaningful, smartly coached football. I look forward to it, I guess, until they kick off probably, and then they piss me off again. Let's go Fins, home opener. We'll see you next week as we prepare Thursday Night Football against Buffalo, and we shall see you then.